I had my childhood wounds, because of which there was a lot of suppressed anger that I was carrying, and because of which I was struggling, suffering in my life. Whatever they have been through as a child, I just help them heal themselves so that they can truly become present. And my mom has always been a perfectionist. She
Okay.
always, like, if you go to her house, it's like crystal clean. Okay, she's very obsessive about her house, and everything that she has to do, it has to be in a perfect way. From 0 to 12, children are 100% subconscious. So whatever they see, whatever happens with them, whatever they learn, whatever they hear from their parents, growing up, it becomes their inner voice. Most people who get married, the first 5 years are very difficult for them, because we are trying to understand, getting to know the other person, right? That's when this work plays a huge role. My daughter was around 1.5 or 2, between 1.5 to 2. I was ill, so I thought that, I'll take a rest for today. I started yelling at her, shouting at her, and there was so much of anger that was, I was just trying to control. I just picked my hand and I hit my daughter on her head. And it was so, the intensity with which I hit her was so high that her head banged the floor.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to one more awesome episode of Be Achievers Club podcast show. This episode is healing special because in this episode, we are going to discuss about how you can deal with your childhood and generational traumas and how you can cope up with all of those and come forward and achieve holistic success in your life. Because in this episode, we have an awesome guest named Apurva Tare, who is internationally certified coach and a healer. She's inner child coach and she's also child psychology expert. She's also an author of an awesome book, The Visionary Parent. And in this episode, we are going to discuss about the core problem from where the trauma starts and how we can heal with different practices. And whichever practice you feel is suitable for you, you can start from today onwards, because without healing yourself, you can't upgrade and you can't go to the next possible and the best possible level of your own self, whether it is in terms of your health, wealth, relationship, and relationship with your own self and all other areas of life as well. So please do make sure that you watch this episode with at least one family member or one friend of yours, because the family which learn together grows together. So make sure you take full notes and enjoy this episode with Apurva ma'am on the Achievers Club podcast show. Apurva ma'am, welcome to the Achievers Club podcast show. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much, Sahil. I think we have been interacting to and fro, that when do we kab karna hai ye interview, but finally we are doing it. So I'm really excited.
Yes, definitely. In fact, I'm also super excited for this podcast because मैंने ये word जो है inner child healing काफी बार सुना है, but I thought you are the expert in that. तो मैं तब तक के लिए I'll be a clean slate so that you can just write down कि क्या definition है and all of those things. But before jumping into the actual topic, I would just like to know, like, what was your journey all about and why did you started what you're doing right now?
Yeah. Okay, so this journey has been almost now 7 years long journey. I'm an engineer by profession,
Same,
completed my
okay.
engineering.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Mumbaikar, hardcore Mumbaikar, born and brought up in Mumbai. My parents wanted us to become engineers, me and my elder sister, so we became engineers, electronics and telecommunication engineer. And I was working as a full stack developer in multinational company. I was in Accenture and then I switched to Credit Suisse. Um, so decade-long years of experience in full stack development, software engineering, and all that. Um, the reason I said that this is a 7 year long journey that I've been into this particular uh, um, field is because 7 years back I gave birth to my daughter. 2017 she was born, and since then I was always interested in understanding psychology. So since childhood I was very interested in philosophy and psychology, and but of course I did not get to study it officially during my education time, but it was always there. So when my child was born, things started to happen. I went into postpartum depression, and it was as if like मैं क्या कर रही हूँ लाइफ में क्या हो रहा है राइट काम कर रही हूँ बट काम में मजा नहीं आ रहा है घर पे लड़ाइयाँ हो रही है things were not working. I did not know what is it that I want to do in my life. Right? ये एक phase I think हर एक के life में आता है जहाँ पे they are wondering whether I have taken a right decision to become an engineer or not, or a doctor
True.
or not, right? So that was the moment, and उस moment से मुझे uh, I was going through depression, so a lot of anger, a lot of frustration that would come out, and that would be vented upon my most defenseless person in my life. That was my daughter, right? तो उस पे गुस्सा निकल जाना. Uh, Over the time, I realized कि parenting में कुछ गलत हो रहा है. I started investing in parenting courses. But there were moments where I would go back into my impulsive nature कि एकदम से गुस्सा आ जाना, right? And mothers especially would resonate with this, that the kind of things that we have to do to take care of the child, it becomes overwhelming, right? And I was doing everything in my powers, but still there were moments I would go back into my impulsive nature, impulses, and I would yell at my daughter, hit my daughter. And then there, like, of course, I'll share more about this. But there was a moment where I decided that enough is enough, and I started learning about child psychology, understanding कि होता क्या है, parenting. ठीक है, tips and tricks से थोड़ी बहुत changes हो रही है, but then not everything. My life is still the same. And then I enrolled, being an engineer, I enrolled into masters, doing masters in child psychology. I wanted to understand it officially. So that is where the term inner child healing, the inner child, right? It was curated by, or coined, this term is coined by a famous psychologist, Carl Jung. So we all know this Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud are the legends of psychology. So they have like come up with this topic, and I started researching a lot about it, and I realized that I had my childhood wounds, because of which there was a lot of suppressed anger that I was carrying, and because of which I was struggling, suffering in my life. तो उसमें मैं डीप जाती गई. I found my mentor who helped me heal my inner child. And the more I went into it, the more I found that there's so much more to learn. And that is how my journey of helping myself, and over the time, over the past 5 years, I've been helping people, helping mothers especially, to overcome their postpartum depression, heal their inner child. Whatever they have been through as a child, I just help them heal themselves so that they can truly become present to what is there in front of them, right? Present to the children, but because children are always present, right? They live in the present moment. They don't
True.
have this concept of past, present, future. They just know that right now I want to do this, right? And
True.
for them, we have to do this. So that's something that I resonated with. I got certified into this concept, and I became a coach and a healer. And that's how my journey started. And it's absolutely amazing, the kind of transformation that I see in me, that I've seen in me, as well as my students, my community members who have gone through this journey of healing their inner child, getting massive results for themselves. So that's how my journey has been, and this is my mission now, that I want to do this for the rest of my life. Last year I quit my job, and I'm doing this full time now.
That's amazing. And your journey is truly inspiring to me as well, because not just me, but there are hundreds and millions of women out there, those who are actually engineers, those who are working, and they have kids as well. So your journey is truly inspiring for them, so that they can heal themselves, plus they can
Yeah.
heal their kids also, so that they're not, you can consider, putting out their traumas into their life and so on.
Yes.
But
Yes.
discussing about some of the core points as you mentioned in your journey. Like as you mentioned, it was your own wounds and so on. So how did you understood that? Okay, so let's take it absolutely clear. Like you went through courses and programs. So by going through those, you understood that you have wounds and you need to heal those. Okay. And what were those? Like, can you just describe some of them so that we can understand what are some of the wounds we can also go through, so that how do
Yes,
we heal
absolutely.
them and so on?
I always share my journey, like how I got into this field. So basically, I'll tell you, Sahil, as a child, as a child, I was a very forgetful kid. I
Okay.
would forget things. पेन पेंसिल भूल जाना, स्कूल में भूल के आना या रख के आ जाना, या बैग रख के आ जाना. So much of forgetfulness, right? Now, what happened because of that forgetfulness nature, or I would forget my geography lessons. And my mom has always been a perfectionist. She
Okay.
always, like, if you go to her house, it's like crystal clean. Okay, she's very obsessive about her house, and everything that she has to do, it has to be in a perfect way, in a perfect sense, right? And I was exactly the opposite. I was a messy kid. So,
Okay.
so because I was a forgetful kid, and I was a messy kid, I would be beaten up a lot
Okay.
for things. अगर geography lessons भूल गए तो my mom had a cane. Okay, my mom had a cane, and she was the teacher. My parents, they are now retired, but they both have had their own classes. They used to teach children from like first standard to 10th standard, okay, and all the subjects. So she had this cane, and she would, be punishing the students, and with that cane also, I was beaten up, okay. Now, what happens is, growing up as a teenager, usually हम क्या करते हैं, हर कोई तो मार खा के बड़ा होता है, उसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात है,
True.
right? We try to normalize the kind of abuse that happened with us,
True.
right? We don't want to even call that as an abuse, because mom ने ही तो मारा है ना, right?
True.
So this is what we do as a society, that if a mother, or if an elder, or if an adult is being beaten, or if a woman is being beaten up, we call it domestic abuse. If a man
True.
is being beaten up, it's called, that okay, that's a different kind of abuse. When a child hits his mother, we say that the child is being aggressive. But
True.
when the child is being beaten up by the elders, we call it bachcha shaitan hai.
So true.
Right,
That's so true.
right. And that child is 100% subconscious. From 0 to 13, children are 100% subconscious. They do not have a filter. They do not know, um, they do not have a filter. As in, if I'm saying to my child that my child is a very shy kid, okay, my child is a very shy child, that child is going to internalize that in her life. And
Okay.
that's how people become introverts.
So you mean to say that it's not that we are having those characteristics, but we are given those characteristics by the
See,
people surrounding us.
there is always this debate in psychology. There's always this debate between nature and nurture. Okay, so the
Okay.
nature of the child can be introvert. Okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that all the introverts are, beaten up as a child, or told that this is a shy child. So there's always a debate between whether it's a nature of the child, or whether it's the nurture that is happening with the child, which is causing him or her to become introverts. But what I'm trying to say is, from 0 to 12, children are 100% subconscious. So whatever they see, whatever happens with them, whatever they learn, whatever they hear from their parents, growing up, it becomes their inner voice,
Okay.
right? So for me, what happened, because I was beaten up a lot, I had low confidence. As a teenager, I did not have confidence in my own abilities. I did not have that confidence. Anybody who would come and talk to me nicely, I would feel that उसके काम के लिए आया होगा, पक्का उसका कुछ काम होगा, इसीलिए मुझसे अच्छे से बात कर रहा है, right? So that is the kind of conditioning that happens with us. If we are beaten up, our confidence is low, that anger, of course, कोई हमें मारेगा तो गुस्सा तो आएगा.
True.
If you आपको अगर चाटा पड़ा किसी से तो आपको गुस्सा आएगा. But because we are so defenseless, we are not able to defend ourselves. We are suppressing that anger. And at the same time, what happens? A child is beaten up, and at the same time, the child is told, shh, don't utter a word. You're not supposed to
True.
share. रोना
True.
बंद करो, वरना मैं और मारूंगी.
So true.
Right? Then what happens with the child? The child is suppressing the anger. The child is suppressing all of his emotions, his or her emotions. And then what happens? The child grows into a teenager still stuck there. That ye hua mere saath.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The child is still stuck there. Growing up as an adult, we face relationship challenges. We are not in healthy relationships. We don't have healthy relationships. We are stuck in career which is stagnant
Okay.
because we हमारी boss से बनती नहीं है, या boss is very aggressive or dominating towards us, and we keep on switching from one job to another job to another job only to find that अरे similar kind of boss मेरे साथ ही क्यों होता है ये ऐसा.
True.
Right? Health is getting impacted because whatever is happening within us, कहते हैं ना, our physical health is a manifestation of our mental health.
Yeah. True.
Right? और वो mental health आ कहाँ से रहा है? It
From
is
our
all
past.
our childhood, past conditioning, traumas, wounds that we are carrying. Until the time we don't decide that, okay, fine, I want to heal from this, I want to overcome this, and I really want to lead a better life, a better quality life. Till that time, that trauma goes, and 95% people are stuck in their life today because of this.
Okay. And
It's only it's only when the person decides to overcome this will they stop this at them. And it's not that they are living their entire life the way they've been taught, and they pass it on to the next generation. So it's like an ancestral imprints that we are carrying. आज भी अगर हमारे साथ कुछ हुआ है and we are not taking an action towards it, it's coming from some place, right?
इनफैक्ट लाइक इन बिटवीन लाइक मैंने इसी कंसेप्ट पे एक पोस्ट देखा था ऑन इंस्टाग्राम. इट वाज लाइक be a chain breaker. Like if you are getting lot of traumas from your parents, they also got from their parents and so on. So be the chain breaker, work on yourself, learn about this topic, and don't put the same trauma on your kids. Let them flourish and so on.
Yes.
And like as you mentioned, till the time we are not being aware that this is all because of our past, and just because our subconscious is designed in such a way. So how do we heal that part? क्या उसकी कोई specific age होती है? Let's assume, because I've also attended couple of programs जिस पे beliefs पे work करते हैं. We work on a lot of things, but in that also my mentors told that जितना जल्दी हो सके that's better. So what do you feel? Like, इसकी कोई specific age होती है? Because as you mentioned, till the age of 13, we are completely understanding all the things subconsciously without any filter. Which means अगर कोई XYZ चीज बोल रहा है, we are interpreting that same thing in XYZ format itself, not even in
Yes.
WXY, right? So like according to you, age जितनी कम होगी उतना better है, या फिर it can go on like even till 60, 70 we can heal very easily? What's your view?
I do have a couple of my students who are 50, 60. So it's not
Okay.
entirely not possible. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, जितना जल्दी हो सके अगर आपको realize हुआ, you should get into these kind of programs where you can heal yourself, and when you can overcome your patterns basically. Because क्या होता है ना, the more we age, the more we become rigid towards certain thought processes. Right? Now, I cannot ask my mother to change, right? But
True.
for me, it becomes easier because I'm still very flexible. But having said that, if a person realizes their importance, the person realizes the importance of this particular work, And it is not a superficial work. We go very deep into our own traumas, our own patterns that we have collected, and trying to dissolve those patterns one by one, understanding, being aware of those patterns, and then dissolving those patterns. If someone, a 60-year-old also feels that, that this is the work that I want to do. Because see, हम यूजुअली क्या करते हैं, मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल दे फील कि यार लाइफ ऐसी ही है, लाइफ में ऐसी ही होना चाहिए, लाइफ में सैक्रिफाइसेस करने ही पड़ते हैं, all of that, right? We come with that thought process, and it's given to us,
True.
right? It's given to us. So, but the end goal is not to the end goal of this particular work that we do, it's not just for this lifetime.
True.
It's for coming multiple lifetimes, or maybe a couple of lifetimes. We don't know how many lifetimes we are going to be here,
True.
right? So I don't know if you believe in the soul part and the soul
Yes, yes. I
contracts and all
100%
all of
believe in
that,
this.
right?
Yeah.
So it's not just the work that we do for this birth, but coming multiple births, we are trying to improve upon ourselves, because we are here to learn our lessons,
True.
right? And lessons learned, pattern dissolved. So if we are able to dissolve our patterns in this birth itself, the next birth is going to be much, much more easier and happier, is what I feel. But of course, there are some other elements which we might not go into. But that is what I feel. This work is like for lifelong, right?
True.
And any age is just a number then, right? Because we have so much to go forward, because it's like um uh, it's like infinity, right?
True.
That's what I believe, and that's the reason this work plays a huge role in my life. Anytime, even today. So, as I said, it's a lifelong journey, right? I've been doing this since the past 5 years, but does it mean that I am healed completely? No.
No.
Even I have my new patterns that show up. One pattern is dissolved, the other pattern shows up. That okay,
True.
fine, I need to work on this as well. But now I get the hack of it, that okay, fine, this is the pattern that I'm repeating, let me just dissolve it, let me work on it, right? And when
True.
I work on it, when I break that pattern never repeats. But then
True.
there are multiple other patterns that show up.
That's true.
Right? So it's a lifelong process, and age is just a number then.
Perfect. So before going on to the point of patterns, as you mentioned, give me a quick answer on this. As we discussed that it's just about like that the age is just a number, right? But do you believe that as and when we get older and older, the intensity of that particular trauma or that past wound that gets even more rigid and so on? So as and when, let's assume by the age of 13, right, we get those wounds and so on till age of 13. When I'm, let's assume 25 or 30, the intensity will be slightly less as compared to 60, right? So do you
Yeah.
believe that it will be easier to break those patterns and heal ourselves from past ones and get to the new patterns?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The
Perfect.
earlier you start, the better it will be, for sure. At the age of 60, कई बार क्या होता है ना कि the mindset plays a huge role. अगर
True.
आपका mindset है कि नहीं यार, अब क्या करना है यार, छोड़ो लाइफ जीते हैं, छोड़ो ओल्ड पुराने जख्मों को क्यों खुरेदना, राइट?
True.
दैट्स व्हाट वी से. सो वो
True.
क्यों करना है? सो that's what happens with 60-year-olds maybe, and that's the reason they don't venture into this beautiful work. Yeah.
That's true. And talking about the patterns, as you mentioned, कि वो pattern create हो जाता है, and then we have to identify, break the patterns, and we have to create the new ones. But as per your own experience, maybe through your own journey, आप उस पर reflect करके बता सकते हो, या फिर based on your community members, what are some of the common patterns which a lot of Indians face? Because right now we are keeping to India centric itself, because initially we'll go for our country, then globally as well, but initially let's keep it to our country. Like what do you feel ki, based on our culture, based on what happened in past, before independence, like around independence and so on, तो वो भी traumas आते हैं from our
absolutely.
grandparents and so on, from our ancestors. So what do you
Yeah.
feel like? What are some of the common patterns?
So, what I see is, and this is something that that happened with me, and I have seen multiple similar patterns even in my community members. Number one thing that happens, right, with anyone is when they, if suppose they have wounds like, you being a mother being abusive towards you, or a father not being as loving towards you, what happens is, a child, now there are
Mm-hmm.
multiple things to it, okay? What I've majorly seen is people suffer through relationship issues. They are not happy in their relationships because, of course, the other person has that other person comes from their own wounds. I am coming from my own wounds, and
Mm-hmm.
we operate from these wounds. Now, I'm going to give you an example, okay?
Yeah.
If a person, okay, now there's this union that we're talking about, a man and a woman,
Mm-hmm.
a person, out of that, anybody can that be a person who has major abandonment wound,
Okay.
meaning that if a person has felt abandoned as a child, right, maybe did not get love from their mother or from their father, right? If that person has an abandonment wound growing up, if that person gets married to another person, what this person will do, this person has intense fear of the other person leaving me. For
True.
example, if I have abandonment wound, I will have intense fear of my husband leaving me, right? Because I have that fear, what will I do? What will be my actions? I will check his phone. कहीं बाहर तो कुछ चल नहीं रहा,
True.
right? I will fight with him. I will try to control him. That
True.
कहाँ जा रहा है? Let me see. And this is a pattern.
True.
This is a pattern for people who have fear of abandonment. They try to um, be overly possessive about their partners. That okay, what is this partner doing? Right? They'll always be constantly at a lookout of अगर ये कुछ गलत तो नहीं कर रहा है, या मुझे छोड़ के तो नहीं चला जाएगा,
True.
right? Now imagine another person, for example, a guy.
Mm-hmm.
As a child, he was controlled by his mother. Okay,
Okay.
there's
Mm-hmm.
already a lot of overpowering that has happened. Okay, as a child. Okay. Now this person grows into a man. Still, the wounds are there, right? A man who fears enmeshment, who fears overpowering,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because as a child, he was too much enmeshed. Enmeshed meaning he overly controlled
True.
by his mother or by his father, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now this man will have fear of enmeshment, fear of getting overpowered,
Controlling. Yeah.
controlling. And he is married to the person who has fear of abandonment, right?
बहुत प्रॉब्लम होगी.
Now what happens? Problem hogi ki this person will try to run away and this
Mm-hmm.
person is running behind this person,
True.
right? That's a disastrous union anybody can have. Now, of a person with the fear of abandonment, even if
Mm-hmm.
the other person is not having that enmeshment wound, okay?
Mm-hmm.
A normal person, or this other person is also having some kind of wound. But a person with a fear of abandonment will always have that fear, right? Now, if in a union, that is why, women who go through domestic abuse, they're the reason they're not able to come out of the union is because they fear, what if I'm alone? क्योंकि पेरेंट्स तो
True.
बोल देते हैं शादी के बाद ये घर तुम्हारा नहीं है,
True.
right? So relationship challenges are massive when you have wounds, when you have childhood wounds. Because of course, I am coming from my own wounds. I'm talking in terms of my own wounds, that this is what happens with me. And the other person is talking from their own wounds, that this is what happens with me, right? For example, I'll give you my personal example, okay? As a child, I was beaten up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And during those moments, right, when I was beaten up, I used to feel that why can't my mom understand me, that I forget things. Maybe I have some disease or some problem, right? अभी
हम्म.
तो ADHD, ADD has come up. तब तो ये
हाँ.
words भी नहीं थे,
नहीं थे,
right?
बिल्कुल नहीं थे.
नहीं थे. What if I have that, right? And I used to always feel that as it is, I'm not understood. Nobody will understand me. Nobody will understand me. I went through a lot of enmeshment as a child.
True.
Now, what would happen as a grown up, as an adult? Because I always despised my mother for hitting me because I was a forgetful kid. It was not, yes, there was a lot of anger towards my mother, but there was a lot of anger towards me as well. That why can't I remember things? Right? There was a lot of anger towards me. And after marriage, especially, it got magnified. Okay, it got magnified because तब in-laws के elements आ जाते हैं, and we are a
Correct.
family of 5. We are in a joint setup. So in-laws बोल देंगे, या कभी मेरे like my husband says that यार इतना भी भूल गई. That used to trigger me.
Okay.
The trigger was not that my husband said that ये इतना भी भूल गई. The trigger was way behind in my childhood when I was beaten up, where nobody understood me for my problems.
True.
And it's the same pattern that I'm now repeating in with my husband. If my husband is saying that itna bhi bhul gaye, I am understanding that he doesn't understand me. That's where the clash happens. That's where the trigger happens, right? And it
True.
used to happen a lot. Like the first 5 years of my marriage was very difficult. And I'm sure that most people who get married, the first 5 years are very difficult for them, because we are trying to understand, getting to know the other person, right? That's when this work plays a huge role, where you are able to understand your patterns. Where is it coming from? If at all you're feeling triggered at any given point of time, someone comes and tells us something, and we feel triggered. इत्तू
True.
सा कुछ किसी ने बोल दिया, and we feel triggered कि अरे ऐसे किससे बोल दिया.
True.
So at that moment, what is happening is it is stimulus. It is called stimulus. The trigger is way behind in my childhood,
True.
where I was maybe not understood, right? So these are the patterns that we, after we get married, we get those patterns also along with us, right?
True.
So this is one of the biggest problems that we are suffering today. Relationships are suffering. Divorce rates have gone up,
True. That's true.
right? That's the reason divorce rates have gone up.
That's so deep. And as you mentioned, like it's not about the current triggers, it's what we call a stimulus, right?
Yes.
So talking about stimulus itself, because present tense mein, agar for example, if I am getting stimulus on XYZ thing, right? So what are different practices so that I can understand कि यार इसका trigger point क्या है? Like ये
Yeah.
start कहाँ से हुआ, origin कहाँ से है, so that I can heal it. So what are some of the practices which you followed and which you teach people as well?
Yeah. So basically, I always, when I have to talk about stimulus, I always say to my community members, don't kill the messenger.
Okay.
So basically, whoever has triggered you at that particular moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
That person is just a messenger. That
True.
person is there to teach you some lesson that you did
True.
not learn since so long,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's repeating again and again and again in your life. That trigger is coming again and again and again in your life. It's because you have not learned that lesson, right? And the best way for you to learn that lesson is, first is introspection, understanding where the trigger is coming from. Is there anything that I've been feeling? Because everything that we do is based on the emotions that we feel at any given point of time, right? Whether it's anger, whether it's sadness, whether it's depression, whether it's happiness, whether it is anxiety, whether it is stress. All of these are emotions that we feel at any given point of time, right? And the emotions that we feel are lower vibrational feelings that we call guilt, sadness, anger, anxiety, apathy, depression. All of these are lower vibrational feelings that we feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is that feeling trying to tell you? Has this feeling ever repeated in your life? Have you ever experienced this particular feeling or this emotion in the past, maybe when you were a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 13-year-old? Did similar kind of things happen with you when you were a 7-year-old kid? Maybe something happened, maybe something more, something your mom said or your father said or your or someone in the environment said to you, and it left a mark on you, right?
True.
It's as simple as that. If a child of a 7-year-old, of a fat kid, is called fat, अरे ये तो बहुत मोटा है,
True.
right? That leaves a mark on you. And anytime you're listening or you're looking at the mirror, you're just having that inner chatter that अरे ये तो fat है, अरे ये तो बहुत मोटा है,
True.
right? So it goes to that level, understanding where is it coming from, asking yourself, okay, fine, let me not kill the messenger, let me just reflect upon my own uh, story backward, let me work it out, let me journal it. So there is a 3-step process that I share usually in my community. Whenever you feel there is a trigger that's coming up, that's showing up in your life, the first thing is you need to start journaling. What is it that you feel about? What is it that you feel right now, right?
Mhm.
Because that emotion is something that is going to drive you, or that's going to guide you in the past. When did you feel this, right? Asking yourself, like, when was the first time I felt this emotion,
Okay.
right? And then journaling about it. Once you journal, like, the second step is to read what you've written and then embrace yourself. Accept yourself that you're feeling angry. Accept yourself for, you want to kill the other person. It's that level of anger that's showing up for you, right?
Mhm.
Because acceptance is a huge problem. We cannot accept ourselves. It's a
True.
huge problem for all of us. How can I accept myself when I've done this wrong? Right? मैंने इतनी गलतियां करी है, मैं खुद को कैसे एक्सेप्ट करूं?
That's so
Right?
true.
We do not usually accept ourselves, and that's the reason self love is like at the rock bottom, right? Self love तो बाद में करेंगे, पहले problems तो resolve कर ले,
True.
right? So accepting yourself as raw as possible, writing it as raw as possible. अगर गाली आ रही है, गाली लिखो, right? Because that is the way we vent it out, right? We are not
True.
actually venting upon the other person, but we are actually venting upon the book. And then reading it and accepting yourself for what you feel. It's not for what you do or for what you've done, but what you feel right now. Can we at least accept ourselves? कई बार ना, what we do is, नहीं नहीं, मुझे नहीं ऐसे फील नहीं होना चाहिए, इतना गुस्सा क्यों आ रहा है, I should not feel this way. And हम खुद को ही दबा देते हैं. We suppress it again.
That's
And then
true.
again, that the next trigger comes, we feel angry, we say something, we do something, and then again we suppress. So that suppression is continuously going on. नहीं नहीं, मुझे ऐसे नहीं फील करना चाहिए, नहीं मुझे नहीं बोलना चाहिए, राइट? हाँ, मत बोलो. आप मत बोलो किसी और को, जाके किसी और को हर्ट मत करो. अगर वो होता है तो भी इट्स ओके एट टाइम्स. If we are venting that anger, it is okay. Of course, that intensity should not be that level कि आप एकदम ही मार डालो दूसरों को. But then
Mhm.
it should be at least that's the reason, communication is so important,
True.
right? Because communication was impacted for all of us as a child.
That's true. And
Because whenever we told that,
Mhm.
okay, नहीं बोलना नहीं है, रोना बंद करो, boys don't cry, or girls don't show their anger, emotions निकालने की बात ही नहीं आती, express कैसे करेंगे,
True.
right? And the
That's
third
very much
step,
difficult.
yeah, the third step is to change those lines into positive declaration or positive affirmation, right? And just repeating it to yourself that, okay, I'm working on it, I'm work in progress, right? I'm on the right track, or whatever comes out of the journaling that has happened. right? So these are the three-step process that people have they've healed their particular triggers. I mean, what next? Now suppose that you do this for the first time. Okay, you do this, you journal it, you embrace yourself, you write affirmations, and you repeat it for yourself. The next time when the same trigger happens, you'll be following the same process, but the intensity has reduced a little, because now
Reduce. Yeah.
you've started accepting yourself that yes, I am a forgetful kid. I've accepted that in me. That okay, fine, I
True.
forget things. हाँ, कोई बोल भी दे तो मैं हंस देती हूँ अब कि ठीक है यार,
True.
भूल गई, है ना?
True.
So that intensity reduces, right?
That's true.
And we are here to heal every single thing uh, that we go through. Otherwise तो हम लड़ते ही रहेंगे, गुस्सा ही करते रहेंगे दूसरों पे, और दूसरों को ही ब्लेम करते रहेंगे. One of my mentors says that complaining makes you a crap magnet. So if you're
Okay.
complaining in your life, you're actually attracting a lot of crap in your life.
That's true. And in fact, yesterday I read one of the statements in the book. It goes like, when we are healing ourselves, we are not just healing our present self, not even past self, but we are healing millions of people around us. Those who are going through the same trauma or same negative energy, and we are also uplifting those people. So never give up on healing your own self. That's what I read on that book in that particular note.
Absolutely.
And as you mentioned, like we have to go about the positive statements, positive affirmations, and so on. Let's take for example right now, any XYZ kid has gone through some of the traumas with respect to relationship. Right now we are taking example of relationship. So now that particular kid, whether boy or a girl, uh, himself or herself has healed. Plus, when it comes to their own parenting, let's assume a couple of years later, now they're having kids. Do you feel that whatever negative energy they had from their parents, they have healed themselves? Do you feel that now these, like male or a female, whatever example we took, XYZ, they will be over possessive and they will be over positive on their kids? Or is it just a neutral one? Like what's the experience there?
So basically, this journey is, I won't say that this journey is going to be perfect after you heal. But
Mm-hmm.
what will happen is you will be super aware of yourself,
True.
super aware of what
Mm-hmm.
you do, what actions you take, what you speak, because we'll be super conscious in terms of then what is it that I want to say to my child, what I am saying to my child, is it empowering my child or disempowering my child? If I am constantly saying yaar tum to sunte ही नहीं हो, sunte ही नहीं हो, sunte ही नहीं हो, the child is going to end up not listening to me.
True.
It actually happens. अगर मैं बार बार बोल रही हूँ बच्चे को कि बच्चा मेरी बात आप सुनते नहीं हो, right? And this happens with so many parents. They keep on repeating the negative things that the child has, and the child internalizes those negative things.
And ultimately becomes that.
Ultimately becomes that. So it is not about if I'll be, oh wow, all the time like, ah wow, I'm so happy with my kid. No, that doesn't happen, because our life is up and down, up and down. Of course, we are bound to feel depression at times. We are bound to feel happy at times, and it's a journey of up and down, right? Failures and success are a part of it, right? So that doesn't happen. But then what happens is, even though I'm not at my best right now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of it. I communicate that to my daughter, that bacha, I'm really not feeling well right now. Is it okay if we play later? Or is it okay if anything comes out of my mouth, please do not or rather I won't say anything hurtful to the child,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that how to tackle any situation. Even if I'm not at my best, I will try my best not to pass it on to my daughter. So maybe
True.
I'll take some me time. I'll do something for my own self. I'll do journaling. I'll do something which I absolutely love doing. For me, writing and reading are something that I really love doing. Writing and reading. So that is what I do if I'm not at my best. I sleep it off.
Okay.
Okay. I love to sleep. So I sleep it off. If I feel that no, this is getting overwhelming, I just go to sleep. Okay. So these are some of the coping mechanisms we will be uh, uh, learning, or because see, some coping mechanisms are healthy, some coping mechanisms are not healthy, right? And we need to disempower, or leave the coping mechanisms which are not helping us, right?
True.
Perfectionism, procrastination, all of these are coping mechanisms, right? Our job is to be able to be conscious and work on the empowering ones and let go of the disempowering ones, right?
That's great. And as you mentioned, like you are good at reading. So are there any books which you would like to recommend to our audience? Those who want to learn about like how do they work on their beliefs and like inner child healing itself in general. So what are some of the books which you would like to recommend?
So the books that have truly transformed my life, the number one, like my journey of self-transformation started with this book. Okay. There's this book called Mind Works by Gary Van Wormeden. Okay. This was my
Okay.
first ever self-development book,
Mm-hmm.
which talks about beliefs and belief system and belief bubbles that we have. Okay, and it talks about all the kind of personalities that we are if we have certain types of beliefs, belief system. That has been the most transformative for me, because that was my first book. Because I was an avid reader since childhood. Okay, but I
Okay.
used to read a lot of fictional books. Non-fictional was not that interesting to me, but this was my first ever book. Of course, that was that moment when I started my own healing journey, my own self development journey, where I realized that no, I need to work on myself, right? I did not tell you the turning point of my life. Is it okay if I share that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Go for it.
Yeah. So, as I shared, I went through postpartum depression. I was going through postpartum depression after giving birth to my daughter. And anytime, anything would happen, my relationships were not that great. Because we are a family of five, I would have fights, I would have disagreements with my in-laws, my husband, my daughter, I would be yelling at. My career was stagnant, no promotion, nothing. I was literally stuck in that phase, okay? And what happened was 2 years I went through this postpartum depression. And my daughter was around 1.5 or 2, between 1.5 to 2. There was a moment where I was so frustrated with my life. Every single night I would cry कि मैं कर क्या रही हूँ life में, no confidence left, 20 kgs overweight, all of these things, right? Health issues, manifested gallstones, manifested hypothyroidism, hypothyroid, lump on my right breast, which was to be removed. A lot of physical diseases that I attracted, and I was not happy. And 1.5, 2 years down the line, there was one particular day where I was physically ill, mentally, disturbed all the time. There was one day particularly I remember, because that was the turning point of my life, where I was ill. So I thought that, I'll take a rest for today. And I thought that, okay, fine, let me just, take a rest for today. And that was the time when my daughter decides to be all over the place. She would throw things at me. She wanted to play with me. She was pulling me, Mama, play with me. And she was doing all sorts of things to annoy me, to frustrate me. And I was not in that position. Like I said, right, I was not in the present moment. I was in the past, operating from the past. Nobody understands me. I have done this, I've done that, I'm not happy, I need a divorce, all of those things, okay, running in my head, and I was not in the present moment. And at that time, my daughter wanted to play with me, and I was not in that condition. And even though I was like pushing her, like, Mama needs rest today, nahi, and I started yelling at her, shouting at her, and there was so much of anger that was I was just trying to control, and but then still she would not budge. And there was one particular moment where I could not take it anymore, and all the suppressed anger that I had, it just I just picked my hand and I hit my daughter on her head. And it was so the intensity with which I hit her was so high that her head banged the floor.
Okay.
A 1.8-year-old, just imagine that little one. Immediately, I realized that I've done something like a huge mistake I've made, and I picked her. I started apologizing. I started saying sorry. And not just that day, that entire week, I remember waking up in the middle of the night. What if something psychologically wrong happens with my daughter? Who's to blame at that moment?
Oh,
Uh, Eventually, of course, I took, and I did not share it with anybody in my family. Okay, I was so scared because she banged her head, and their head, like their head is so soft, right? At that time,
yeah,
it's
true.
very impressionable, and I was so scared at that moment. What if I lose that chance? What if something happens to her brain? Some malfunction happens or dysfunction happens with her. Who's to blame? Literally very shocked at that moment. But then I eventually I took her to her pediatrician. I got her checked completely. And the words that came out of my pediatrician's mouth were like savior for me. Okay, that was the reality, like the moment of truth for me. She said that everything is fine, your daughter is doing fine. Nothing is wrong with her. I was like, enough is enough. I need to start my journey. I need to start taking responsibility of my own life. I cannot keep blaming others for my situation. That's how my that's when, these books really help me, and then eventually parenting and child healing, all of it just it's just like a full circle for me now. I now realize why I went through those experiences as a child. Why did I go through that experience with my own daughter? It was because for me to realize my own purpose in this life. Right. So I'll come back to the books that I wanted to share. Number one is Mind Works. Second is Homecoming by John Bradshaw. He is a veteran in this particular inner child healing subject, and he was also on opera. Right now, he's no more, but he's a legend who's done a lot of work in inner child healing. So his book is something that I would recommend. Like reading. And if you're a parent, there is also a book that I have written, The Visionary Parent, which also talks about our belief system, about how parenting your child, going deep into your own self can help your child, right? So that's what I talk about in this particular book. So yeah.
That's great. And honestly, by listening to your story, I feel like just because of time constraints, we can't go further with parenting. But I
Yeah,
would love you to have back on our podcast just to discuss
absolutely.
about parenting. But just with the signing note, any tip or any advice which you would like to give to our audience, keeping in mind, let's assume a group of audience is very young. Let's assume till the age of 25 till 30, and some of
Yeah.
them are like between the age of 25 to 45, and some
Mm-hmm.
are 45 above as well. So you can
Mm-hmm.
keep these three audience in mind, and you can give advice to them.
Right. So if you are between 25 to 30, I think your journey needs to start as soon as possible. I feel,
Mm-hmm.
because even though you might feel that my childhood was amazing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there's there's uh, there's there's only 1% chance of that happening. I'll tell you, you might feel that your childhood is super awesome, but still you're struggling right now. You're struggling because some conditioning that has happened with you, right? Some kind of conditioning that might have happened with you, some environment wound you might have collected. For example, your parents were super conscious and they were, visionaries. In like, for me, for majority of my life, I consider that my life was super awesome. Okay. But if just that part, if I leave, otherwise, my parents have always been loving towards me. My father, I love my father because he's that, I call him Guy. गाय है वो एकदम cow. Okay. So I had amazing time with my parents, but still there were things that I had to work upon myself in order to, really overcome and become that person of, realizing your true potential. So that is something that is very close to my heart. You cannot be satisfied with whatever version you are right now, because I
True.
know that there is a better version for you, right? And
True.
that search of self discovery should never stop for us, right?
That's true.
So if you're between 25 to 30, start your journey, because you might find a lot of things that you have conditioned into, some kind of experiences that will pop up. And the kind of work that we do, we access our subconscious, and subconscious has all the answers, right? All the answers. So
Correct.
that's why it's so important for us to go back, because many a times some traumas, our brain is super intelligent, okay? Our brain will try to hide those traumas, and not show to you at all. It's only when we do this work that we realize, okay, fine, this is also something that I had gone through as a child, right? So many of my students come and tell me that my childhood was pretty awesome, and then when they do the processes, when they do the 60 days journey, they realize that, oh my God, there's so much more, like there's so much that I am holding on to, right? So start your journey. If you are a parent, of course, if you're between 30, 35, 40, 45, you might be a parent, you might not be a parent. But if you are a parent, or if you are a parent to a niece, right? Because all the children around us, they are learning from us. They're always
True.
learning from us. So what is the kind of parenting that you are doing with your children or the children around you? Are you being respectful towards them? What is it that is stopping you from starting your journey, right? That is something that I want you to reflect upon. And age is just a number, as I've already shared, that age is just a
True.
number. It's just, you need to have that willpower to work on yourself, because it is not going to be an easy journey, right? But with a mentor, with a coach who can really make it an easy journey for you, it does become easy. If we do it on our own, it's not going to be easy, right?
True.
And this is what Sid's my coach, I think our coach, you're also from
Yeah.
IELTS. He says that if you could have done it on your own, you could have done it. You would have done it by now, right? So if you have
That's
not
true.
yet reached, if you have not yet reached your true potential, then there's still more to learn, still more to grow. So start your journey, and yeah, that's what I would like to share.
All right. Apurva ma'am, thank you so much for being on our podcast show. Honestly, the advice was really amazing. And even though, like, as you mentioned about the advice for the people between 35 to 45, like even they
Yeah.
are parent to their niece and so on. In fact, we also have, we can consider a couple of child around our area and so on. Those who come to our home, and we just play around with them. So in fact, I am also being conscious that I don't have to instill anything negative into them, even though I'm not their parent, but still I have to be very conscious about that. So thank you so much for pointing that out. And definitely we'll do part 2 of this where we'll discuss about parenting. But I love this conversation. Once again, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sahil. I am really thrilled to watch this recording, and really thrilled to be here in the first place. So thank you so much for inviting me. Really
Thank you so
honored.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's the episode for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you got enough value and wisdom from Apurva Tare ma'am on healing and how we can deal with traumas and so on. And I hope that you have also got clarity about what are the different practices which you are going to inculcate in your day-to-day life, so that you can deal with your own childhood and generational trauma, and you can become the best version of yourself. Please do make sure that you share all of your takeaways below this particular video in the comment section. Also, if you want to connect with Apurva ma'am, all the links are given below in the description section. Hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And I look forward to see you in the next episode. Till then, live fully, love openly, and make the difference today. I wish you joy and abundance in all you do.